that Catherine never had a formal house inspection done when she bought her home, it's clearly time for certified home inspector Brian Daly to shine his flashlight on the matter.
I'd be happy to find out if there's something going on mechanically with the house.
After a thorough inspection of the more routine residential trouble areas, Brian is given a detailed list of hotspots documented by Michelle from our homeowner.
So the first thing on our checklist is something about a fishbowl, and that was in the kitchen. There's our fishbowl. Now, that looks like a newer bowl, obviously. The old one, according to my notes from Michelle, kind of looked like a brandy glass. Now, that glass is really thin.
A hairline crack, lots of water pressure, vibration from the street noise. It's a no-brainer.
So that one is definitely off the list. I was told by Michelle that this deadbolt was giving problems and it kept locking on its own.
You slam the door a certain way, that lock will slam shut. It's just a spring-loaded mechanism. That can happen, absolutely.
All right, let's have a look at the drains. So this helps us just see a little bit further on down. I've seen a lot of things down drains, but I've never seen anything like this.
It's not what I expected to see at all. There's things down there that are just kind of scary. It's not what I expected to see at all. There's things down there that are just kind of scary. We need to get a contractor in to have a look at that.
Okay, we're gonna go upstairs and have a look at closet door. Right off the top, I can see that our floor is sagged a little bit.
Door at the top of the stairs is an easy one. It's not level to begin with because the floor is shifted, so it naturally wants to open.
These old latches also never latch properly. One of the things we do know is that we've got newer windows in the house. With newer windows, it creates a tight building envelope. Every time you open a front door, doors swing open. Plus, the homeowner has a cat. A cat is always pawing at something, always trying to get inside closets, so he probably swung it open just like that. So this is something that I'm going to be checking off my list. Okay, my notes tell me that in this room, there's a strong smell of mustiness. I got a really good sense of smell, and I don't smell anything in this room, but there is evidence that we've obviously had a roof leak at one point in time that's been repaired.
There's nothing going on there. I think the homeowner's just smelling things.
Okay, in the bathroom here, our homeowner swears that the taps were mysteriously on in the middle of the night. Now, these are reproduction taps. They'll perform the old taps.
Sleepwalking. There's got to be no other explanation.
And look at this. They seat just perfectly.
I'm sure that the homeowner probably inadvertently turned them on and went to bed and didn't know that she left them on.
Okay, master bedroom. First of all, there's our culprit, the cat. Now, my list tells me that the homeowner has heard noises in the attic. Now, where we are in the city, it's an area that's notorious for animals getting onto the roof and getting into the attic space. There's probably raccoons trying to get together and make baby raccoons.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely raccoons. I stuck my head up in the attic and I saw the evidence.
We can see evidence of feces and where the insulation's been disturbed.
There's nothing unexplainable or strange in this house. Everything has a plausible explanation. Not uncommon to have these kinds of things happen in a house of this age. It's called character. It has lots of creaks and bumps and grinds. There's nothing wrong with this house at all.
Property, certified home inspector Brian Daly will follow up on the strange occurrences in the house and seek a more plausible explanation.
The family room. This is one of the first things on my list. One night we heard tapping in the kitchen when somebody was sleeping on this couch.
George.
Now, one of the things I did notice is that there's a train track, probably about 200 meters just from this house. That could cause a whole lot of vibrations in the house. There's got to be an easy explanation for this. Oh, yeah, here. Look.
We've got cupboards and drawers full of dishes and glassware. As the train goes by, we get vibration, and that's what makes the noise.
You know what? We're going to check that one off our list. The homeowner's seen some flashes in the family room. As you can see from here, we've got a front door with side light with bevel glass. There's a street outside with oncoming traffic and headlights.
That would cast shadows, easily explained.
Oh, right. So down here, I'm told that this chair has moved by itself. Look at how easily this thing moves.
A rocker is designed to move with the least amount of touch. There's no doubt in my mind that either an animal was underneath it or there was vibration in the house.
And then we're looking for the light at the bottom of the stairs, which is this guy right here.
The first thing we do is try to make sure that we've got a good connection in it. Well, the bulb isn't even screwed in all the way, so that's a start. Screwing the bulb all the way, and guess what? No flickering anymore. That... okay.
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his inspection of the house and hopes to resolve the mysterious electrical issue in the basement.
I think we've got a faulty base or fixture.
Most of the electrical down there needs some work. Qualified electricians should come in here and take a look at all the electrical, especially in the basement.
So we're gonna head upstairs, and here we go in the master suite. I'm told that there's writing on the wall. That's not writing.
That is residue from old wallpaper or old paint that's underneath and just bleeding through.
We're gonna check that off the list. And we've got the daughter's room. Now, complaint here is that the door opens by itself. Let's just check that out, and there's the problem right there.
The door doesn't latch.
This house has dogs and cats in it. They can push it open. We're gonna check that one off and move on to daughter. Here's tapping on the window. There's the problem right there.
There are branches hanging over the house right at the glass.
Any kind of wind outside will cause the branches to hit the house, and that could cause that tap sound. So we're gonna check that off the list. Now, we've got a room where the complaint is that they're always cold in this room. There's no cold air return in the room. That's the first problem. The second is that they've got furniture over the heating vent.
It's no wonder she's cold. They've blocked the supply air vents with furniture, and there's no cold air return in the room. They've got to move the furniture.
Check that one off the list. That's a no-brainer.
All in all, this house is in relatively good condition. I would advise a little bit of TLC. They need to get some experts in for electrical and some other things, but I think they're in good shape.
Home Inspector Brian Daly begins his investigation into the bizarre occurrences in the building. He starts his investigation in Ed's apartment.
Whoa, what a difference in temperature here. Oh my goodness, that's cold. Let's take a temperature reading here. It's a good 10 degrees colder here than it is on the other side of this wall. There is no central heat. We've got an exposed brick wall. There's very little, if any, insulation in the building. Okay, here on the top floor, the homeowners talked about cell phone interference. I'm no expert on cell phones, but one thing I do know is that we've got streetcars right outside. Every time they go by, they cause an electrical charge, and that can interfere with cell phone reception. It's something that has to do with technology. Okay, the next thing is we have a mysteriously locking door in the bathroom. The homeowner says there's no lock on the door. Let me out! Let me out!
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his investigation of the property and has unlocked at least one of the mysteries.
Let me out! There's a lock on the door. That handle to the bathroom, guess what? It has a lock on it. This room is affectionately known as the room with the smell wall. I'm told that the occupants smell perfume and nasty, musty smells. This used to be the old chimney. If it hasn't been capped off properly, we're looking for the chimney. We can clearly see that there's quite a few openings, and this one is open. There could be animals either nesting in it, there could be feces, there could be dead animals in it. I really haven't got any idea where the perfume smell could be coming from. So we're looking for the bathroom. These are taps that apparently come on all by themselves. Looks like we've got brand new copper piping. The taps are good and solid. Human error, somebody's left them on.
Brian heads to the basement, the site of strange sounds and activity that has left Ed's staff afraid to go down there alone.
Now, down here in the basement, one of the things that they're complaining about is the fact that it's cold. It is cold down here. Building of this age is that there's no insulation in the walls, and I don't even see any form of heat here. It's no wonder it's cold. We're gonna move on to toys on the floor. This is pretty straightforward. Homeowner has a cat. Cats, toys, the two things go hand in hand. I'm gonna chalk this one up to cat activity, and we're gonna move on. Now, according to my notes, people hear a lot of strange noises. We can see that there's an open bit of wall here. This is a row house. We have holes in the basement joist spaces that will allow sound to transfer from one unit to the other and top to bottom. I see from my list that the homeowners referred to electrical surges. The electrical surge that they experience in this building is definitely due to the streetcars. Every time a streetcar goes by, it sucks the energy out of this building. They likely need a surge protector. On my list, we've got problems with computers. We found a modem in the basement that was draped over top of an electrical line. Of course they're gonna have problems with surges and blips in the modem.
Feeling confident that he has a reasonable explanation for most of the homeowner's concerns, Brian has one issue left to check off his list.
My list says something about fish. I'm a registered home inspector. I don't do fish.
Brian is convinced that there is nothing unusual going on, but with Ed and his staff up on her lead, certified home inspector Brian Daly begins his investigation into the bizarre occurrences in the house.
Nicely done renovation. So we've got a few things from the homeowner that we need to deal with. The first is the thermostat. It adjusts on its own. It's pretty obvious that it's been replaced at some point in time. The problem with programmable thermostats is that there's all kinds available in the market. The less expensive ones, like this one, tend to fail a little bit more often. We see this type of thing with inexpensive thermostats all the time. It's something that a homeowner can easily replace. One of the other things I noticed is that the thermostat is right opposite an exit door. That could absolutely change the temperature and give a false reading to the temperature that the thermostat is reading. I'm going to suggest that have a look at the thermostat, make sure it's wired properly, and if it's faulty, replace it. I'm going to check that one off our list, and we're going to move on to howling in the bedroom. Looks like we've got a couple of cats here. Now, the noises coming from this bedroom could easily be attributed to these windows. This type of slider can allow air to come through if the windows are not closed properly. If they're left open just a crack, you'll get a whistling sound or a howling sound through the windows that will be very ominous sounding and heard throughout the whole house. That's something that's absolutely plausible. We're gonna knock that one off our list and head out into the hallway. There's another couple of things we need to look at here.
So there's a slight chance here that this could be an alien abduction.
Could extraterrestrial beings and UFOs be the cause of strange and unexplainable activity in Alex's house? Or worse, could alien beings be visiting Alex? Michelle continues her research into the matter. Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his inspection of the property.
Okay, in the hallway, our list tells us that the homeowner hears footsteps. We've got an old house, we've got two cats that we know of, and we've got creaky floors. Homeowners with animals need to expect odd sounds. If there's no insulation in the floor, it can create a hollow sound, which makes cats scampering up and down the hallway sound bigger than they really are. Now, the list also talks about this light above me turning on by itself. I can't imagine how that could happen, but one thing that's obvious is that it is an older light, but we have a newer switch. Whoever wired this switch and put these switches in may have miswired it. I'm gonna check that one off our list. We've got some things to look at in the basement. Okay, we're in a renovated basement. Now there's drywall on all the ceilings, so the first thing we're gonna try to do is find an open area where we might have a view of the upper floor. When we went downstairs, the laundry area had no sound insulation at all. This ceiling is wide open to the upper floors, and it's adjacent to the hallway upstairs. The washing machine isn't even level. In its spin cycle, this could sound like a herd of elephants up there in that hallway. There's no doubt the homeowners are hearing footsteps or crazy noises in the hallway. They're all due to what's going on down below underneath the floor. Have a look at the rest of this basement. What's here? Ah, perfect, the furnace. Listen to the rattling this furnace is making. We hear this tick, 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 tick sound. We've got no insulation or drywall in this room either. When heat goes through the ductwork, it expands. That expansion can cause popping sounds. That goes through the floors, goes through the walls, and again, causes strange noises both upstairs and down here. Problem solved. Houses are live, they move. We have animals in the house, we have wind whistling through the house. There's lots of pressures and things within a house that can cause noises.
Certified Home Inspector Brian Daly begins his investigation into the strange occurrences that the family have reported.
And the new kitchen, perfect. Now, we've got a few things to look at in here. One of the very first things on the list, kitchen door opens and nicely closed on its own. Now, one thing I did notice just walking in here is the floor slopes like a ski slope, actually. In addition, we've got lots of wind coming off the river here. As a result, you get the pressures inside the house. So the door isn't level here. It can certainly open and close on its own because of the winds coming off the water. We're definitely going to check that one off the list. Is just, yeah, if you don't have a level door, it's going to open and close. Now, before we move on, the list tells me that the homeowner hears all kinds of weird noises in this kitchen. This kitchen is an addition to the house. It's an old addition, but it has its own separate attic space above us. There are indications that animals have been in there in the past, likely contributing to that noise. We talked about windows. Again, the river is right there. There's no doubt that just due to the sheer fact that we're in an old house that is not airtight, we're getting lots of noise here. So that one gets checked off the list. Okay. Now, it says on my list here that when the homeowners are watching TV in this room, they feel like they're being stared at by something at the top of the stairs.
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his investigation of the property, and something or someone has just stopped him in his tracks.
There is something in the paint at the top of the stairs that I've got to have a closer look at. This is so cool. The wall's obviously been touched up with two different kinds of paint. You got gloss paint and matte paint. It's actually an optical illusion caused by two different types of paint on the wall at the top of the stairs. It's very subtle, but this definitely could appear to look like the outline of a person. That's pretty cool, but totally explainable, so we'll check that one off our list. My list tells me that homeowners, when sitting in this room, hear noises coming from above. And I think that's definitely the culprit right there. That's an old heating grate. Now, it's not soundproofed at all. It's pretty much an open hole through the floor. It's obvious that anything that happens down here can be heard in the room above. Anything that happens in the room above can be heard down here. Old houses have lots of holes. They can transfer noise from one end to the other. You have no idea where it's coming from. That's all part of the character. That is an easy one to check off. I'm going to recommend that they soundproof that and probably drywall over top of it. That should reduce any noise down here. Now, onto the parlor or playroom. The homeowner says that we get lots of shadows in the room. Look at all the windows in this room. We've also got a highway right in front of the house, a big bend in the road, so I'm sure headlights are hitting this house all the time. Coming through this window, look, there's my shadow right there. It's no wonder they see shadows in the room all the time. Okay, in the basement. Ooh, a nice old basement. Now, our electrical panel is here. One of the complaints on the list was lights coming on, flickering. So we do have a newer breaker panel here. So the wiring is all modern, upgraded wiring here, but there is some evidence we can see here of the old style knob and tube wiring. It looks disconnected, so once again, we're in an older home. It had completely different electrical at one point in time. As a matter of fact, given the age of this house, it probably didn't have electrical when it was first built. It's not unusual for an old farmhouse like this to have the odd flickering light and the odd weird thing happening with electrical plugs. All looks good here. I'm going to check it off. All of the problems that were on our list today could be chalked up to the fact that the homeowners live in an old house. They're not as tight, they're not built the same way newer homes are, and I chalk it up to character. You get the squeaks, you get the creaks, they've got nothing to worry about.
Previous occupants. Armed with a list of Val's concerns, certified home inspector Brian Daly begins his investigation.
All right, very nicely decorated. The first place we're going to start is in this hallway. My notes tell me that the homeowner has felt a sense of something brushing by her in this hallway. Now, we're in an area with lots of large windows and doors that, if they were open at the time, could allow air to come up and down this hallway, and that, I guess, could give her that sensation. Although I have no idea what the circumstances were at the time she was here. This is really beyond the scope of what a home inspector would do, so I'm going to chalk this one up as something I can't really resolve. Now, in here, the homeowner suggested that when she's taking a bath, she gets a sense that somebody's watching her. Now, I'm looking around and we've got mirrors that can cast shadows and we've got a glass enclosure. Now, there's no doubt that being inside this glass enclosure, having a bath, could make someone feel quite claustrophobic. I mean, look at, there's no room to even move in here. Gosh, I gotta open the door.
When I went inside that glass enclosure, I even felt claustrophobic and a little bit weird. So it's no wonder the homeowner, when she uses that tub in that bathroom, might feel a little bit uneasy herself.
Lots of activity down in the basement.
Something is down there that holds its anxiety there.
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his inspection of the property.
Okay, in this hallway, apparently this closet door opens on its own.
It's physics 101 and air pressure. You close one door, the other one opens. They're only held on by magnets.
Okay, master bedroom. The homeowners were lying in bed here and one night heard a very loud crash. One thing we did notice on our exterior inspection was that there's a very large pine tree right in the corner of the building just outside of the bedroom window. And it had very large boughs that were overhanging the roof. Now this happened in the winter time, so there's no doubt there was probably ice and snow buildup. That ice and snow slid off, hit the eaves trough. That would make a very loud bang. All right. In this room, closet light apparently turns on by itself. So the first thing we're gonna do is turn it on and make sure that the fixture is nice and tight. So that seems to be okay. Next, we'll check the switch and, yeah, well, here's the problem right here. We've got a worn light switch, which would suggest that it needs to be replaced. We'll check that one off our list for now, but while we're here, there is something else. Apparently, the grandmother who sleeps in this bed one night saw
An apparition or something appear to pass through the hallway into a child's bedroom, and the child seeing something hovering over his bed.
Let's go and have a look in this bedroom. One thing I noticed when I walked into this room is this huge picture window. Also, there's a driveway there, the entrance to this property. If someone were driving in at night, the light from the headlights of the car would shine right through this window, right into the hallway, where the grandmother saw something passing by. We've got 1, 2, 3 mirrors in this room. The perfect recipe for casting shadows all over the place and scare the heck out of any small child. In the basement, my notes tell me that at night when she's at her desk, she hears what sounds like somebody trying to lock the exterior door. This is a client's home office, so we get a lot of foot traffic from their customers coming in this door. They've got a sign here that says, don't ring, don't knock, just walk in, the door's unlocked.
It obviously does get locked at a certain time of night. If a customer came, tried the door, it was locked, they'd walk away, and it would appear as though somebody was trying to lock it.
So we'll check that one off our list.
This is a custom-built country property. With that comes what I call character. I think they need to just get a little bit more comfortable with their surroundings and understand that what they're experiencing is quite normal for this type of home.
Begins his inspection.
One day, according to my notes, the homeowner came home, the TV was on, he passed by it. There's another TV in the room just adjacent, and they kind of did a flip-flop or something. So this TV is working flip-flop with the other TV just across in the other room. The remote that's being used for these TVs is a universal remote. It operates on the same frequency, and that could have easily turned one off and one on at the same time. He just didn't realize it. We're gonna have a look at the fireplace in the living room here. Apparently it's been coming on and off by itself. So the problem seems to have occurred down here with the electronics. And then look at this. We can see right here, the wires are loose. We've got a loose screw in the connection. This is an easy fix. It's just a turn of the screw just to tighten up that connection, and the fireplace should operate properly. So we're in the master bedroom. The homeowners suggest that when they're in this room, they hear voices. Outside, we notice that the building envelope is not tight. Another thing is the neighbors. They're only 10 feet the other side of this wall. There's no doubt in my mind that what the homeowners are hearing in here is outside influence noises. Something's happened with this painting where it apparently flew off the wall and it hit and knocked off the wall sconce, knocked over the lamp, and ended up down in that corner. We've got so much vibration from these train tracks. There's no way that this actually flew off the wall. It fell off the wall. Absolutely something that could... Look, it just happened there.
Daly continues with his inspection.
Apparently these taps were turned off. Somebody came into the bathroom afterwards and it was on full. I'm not quite sure how that could have happened, but let's have a closer look and see whether we have any faulty tap. And I can see just by the way it operates, it's not operating properly. When we turn from hot to cold, it's pretty obvious that we're dealing with a defective tap. Now, in this bedroom, the homeowner was sleeping here one night, and the stuffed animal that's over on that night table now wasn't here. It usually resides in the basement and ended up in the doorway here on the floor. We have cats and dogs in the house. Animals tend to do things that are unexpected. The dog or the cat picked up the stuffed toy, dropped it here in the doorway, walked away. She woke up, stuffed animal was here. Problem solved. I'm satisfied that we've been able to resolve every issue in this house.
Property. Home Inspector Brian Daly begins his inspection, searching for possible explanations to the strange occurrences happening in the house.
So I'm standing here in the living room, and I gotta tell you, it feels a little bit like a fun house. I remember when I was a kid being at the fair and you go into the fun house, nothing is level. I'm actually feeling a little bit dizzy just standing here. I know that in this corner, the homeowners have complained about shadows being cast. They're in the room and they see things. We've got a very large picture window in front of us, but it's got blinds on it that can augment that light and lots of elements inside, including this pipe from the wood stove that when light comes on it at certain angles, can throw shadows. So no doubt that is what's contributing to what they see as shadows. In this corner, there's lots of sounds of banging on the walls. Right outside these walls is a mature tree with branches right against the house. Obviously in a high wind, they can bang against the wall. This door closes on its own.
There's no wonder it closes by itself.
This back wall is leaning out towards the door. Let's just demonstrate that. Yeah, without any effort at all. It closes and actually slams shut. Now we want to have a look at the cupboards. Now I'm going to make my way up to the cupboards. The reason I say make my way up is because of this floor. This floor is so out of level, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It's got to be a good 6 inches from the center to the outsides of this house. And that's definitely affecting these cabinets. They open and close by themselves. The cabinets aren't level. We can tell by the ceiling line in the top of the cabinet. They're leaning in. As a result, we can see that the cabinets do close by themselves and do make a loud noise.
Walls, floors, ceilings, doors, windows, all of them have to be installed properly, and in this case, none of them work.
Carries on with her search for clues. Home Inspector Brian Daly continues with his inspection.
Now, up here on the landing, the homeowner's daughter said that she heard somebody calling her from downstairs in the kitchen. Honestly, I can't speak to whether she heard somebody calling her name, but I can suggest that she probably did hear something.
The windows, the doors, there's so many holes in the outside of the building envelope.
Anyone walking by and talking, you could clearly hear inside of this house.
The appearance of a large looming shadow in the bedroom.
I've got a huge tree just outside of this wall. The tree right now is casting shadows inside this room. Look at this, there's not even a proper door. We've got a big black sheet. The shadow that she saw was a large black shadow. Over here, these toys apparently move by themselves. Lids from toy boxes come off by themselves. We've got dogs and cats. We've got floors that aren't level. There's no doubt that over time, as they move inch by inch by inch, eventually they'll fall down.
It's my opinion that every one of the complaints that the homeowner has had on this building can be easily explained by physics. The structure is a real concern. The whole thing creates that unbalanced feeling inside, and that has contributed to the way anybody feels when they're inside this house.
Brian is satisfied that simple physics can reasonably explain most of the unusual occurrences in the home. At Home Inspector Brian Daly starts his inspection looking for possible explanations into the strange occurrences.
All right, looks like we're well under construction here. The very first item is this door. I know that they're having problems with the door opening on its own. I can see right away that it's not really installed properly, is it? The hardware itself is loose here. It's not even latching properly, and there are gaps all around the storm door, which will let in wind. And if the door's not shut properly, blow it open. My investigation notes tell me that the homeowner, when standing at the sink, hears voices. Looks as though we've got new insulation in the walls here. Certainly, if there wasn't insulation in the walls, sound can really travel from the outside of the house to the inside.
We're close to neighbors, we're close to a road outside, which it can all contribute to sound transmission inside the building.
A homeowner complains about this door opening and closing on its own. And at the same time, when she came up to investigate, she noticed a shadow crossing from the kitchen all the way down into the front entrance. As far as I'm concerned, the doors in this house are not hung properly, and it's likely letting through a lot of air. So that can cause wind tunnels and channels throughout the house, and could have caused that movement. Let's move on to the shadow. There's a large window in the dining room, a large window in the kitchen, and we've got a road right outside. A car passing can cast shadows through all of these windows, all the way down into the entranceway. This chair the homeowner was sitting in, she was sitting cross-legged, so her feet weren't on the ground, and she was thrown from the chair onto the ground. It is a recliner rocker, so it does have natural movement. If she was sitting cross-legged in the chair, she doesn't have balance, so her center of gravity is off, and any slight movement could actually cause her to fly off this chair.
Hey, I just noticed we've got a guinea pig here. He's squeaking pretty good, too.
We also have a cat in the house. Pets can contribute to noises that we're not used to.
Can you bare your teeth at me?
Oh. Skippers had bit me.
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues with his inspection.
Here is the master bedroom. The homeowner set up an audio recorder to try to capture sounds of what was happening during the night.
We all make noises in our sleep. There's ambient noise throughout the whole house,
Including the cat, outside noise, or the guinea pig,
all kinds of things that you can hear during the night that we're not even aware of.
In this room, the homeowner saw an apparition floating above the computer workstation. I don't really deal with apparitions, but this room is perfect for, once again, casting shadows. We've got a window here, a window there. Just outside the house is a major road. Any car traffic outside can cast shadows within this room. One of the other things I've noticed going through the house is that there is lots of imagery of dragons and swords and masks and all sorts of stuff hanging around this house.
I'm no psychologist, but if you create an environment where you're constantly looking at scary images, you're going to see scary images. I've completed my investigation, and in my opinion, everything the homeowners have experienced in this house can be chalked up to simple physical activity.
Family's concerns, certified Home Inspector Brian Daly begins his inspection.
All right. Looks like it's a bit of a work in progress, and it is an older house. Now, we've got a few things on the investigation notes here that I've been asked to look at. According to my notes, a friend of the family was sleeping on that couch and saw a white figure coming down these stairs. Now, the first thing I noticed is at the top of the stairs is a very large window that right now is letting in a lot of daylight. It lets in lots of daylight during the day. It likely lets in lots of moonlight and light from street lights in the adjacent house right next door. Also, here in the living room, we've got a large picture window. Whenever we get large windows in the front of a house, we've got street lights and headlights from cars. All of those things can cast shadows within a room like this. Now, here in the dining room, the homeowner's daughter was sitting here at this table polishing a pair of boots. She heard something in the kitchen, turned to look, and at that time, the boots flew out of her lap. When she turned back, there was a sensation that she got slapped in the face. This is really beyond what a home inspector does, but let's have a look. So if I've got a pair of boots on my lap or even on the edge of this glass table and I'm polishing them, if I'm startled and I hear a noise in the kitchen, I'm going to turn, my balance is going to be thrown off, and these boots will fall. So when that happens, she turns back and reaches for the boots and probably hit her head on this glass table. Again, not what we do as home inspectors, but it's certainly a plausible explanation.
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his inspection of the property.
Apparently, the homeowner came into the room and found candies placed all over the room. Now, all I can say to that is, I guess somebody's playing a prank, somebody's playing a joke. Again, it's not something that I do as a home inspector. Okay, now here in the kitchen, there's a number of things that are on my investigation points that have happened. We've got scuffs on the wall, we've got knives lined up on the countertop, and we've got every single one of these cupboard doors open. So let's start with the scuffs. We're right beside a stove. People cook here, they use pots and pans, they even use knives and forks in this area, and they could easily scuff the wall. These scuff marks are not even uniform. Quite honestly, this is something I wouldn't even worry about. Moving from there, we get knives on the countertop. Apparently, the knives from this knife block were placed uniformly on the countertop in a row. Physically, this can't happen on its own, therefore, humans had to have done that. From there, we go to cupboards. According to my notes, all of these cabinet doors and drawers were open. Now, this room is put together fairly well. The floors are level, the cabinets appear level, they're not moving on their own. There is absolutely no physical way that any of this could have happened unless somebody did it.
Okay, now up here in the ceiling, I'm told that an inhaler ended up in the ceiling. There is a big gaping hole up there, so I guess if somebody threw it up there, it could have ended up there. But other than that, I really have no explanation as to how that could have happened.
Now, the issue in this room is actually the washing machine. The homeowner loaded it up with laundry, started a cycle, and walked away. When he came back, he found that the lid was open and nothing was happening. I've read the instruction labels here, and it tells me that the machine lid does actually lock in place when it's in spin mode, but not when it's actually filling with water at the beginning of a cycle. And I think that's exactly what happened. Somebody else came, opened it up, and stopped the cycle. It's as simple as that. Okay, so here in the basement bedroom, the person sleeping in this room hears voices and hears footsteps from above. We've got a duct right above the bed. This duct runs from one end of the house to the other and can transfer noise. And there's a big gaping hole in the duct, which probably doesn't help a whole lot. We're gonna head upstairs, but before we do, I just remembered that this basement door was on the list as well. Apparently it moves on its own. It's being held by a rock, and yeah, it's actually moving on its own right here. It was a damaged door. It wasn't installed properly in the first place. Changed the door. Problem solved. Now, we're in a bedroom on the second floor that's no longer used as a bedroom. According to my notes, they're going through light bulbs like there's no tomorrow. One thing I can see is that it's an old fixture, and another thing that I noted when I was actually in the basement is that this house has some old wiring still in place. Those two things could absolutely contribute to this thing not working properly. The other thing has to do with this window. At times, when somebody's down below, they look up at this window and they see what appears to be an image of a face in the window. The very first thing I note is that there's this glass mobile. This will reflect light within this window. The other reason could be from this light fixture behind us. The light fixture itself is free-flowing. With a window open, it can move, and this big glass bulb on the bottom could appear to be a face in the window. A lot of the occurrences reported by the homeowner in this house today are simply physical activity. They had to have been done by a human, by somebody. They have nothing to do with the house, nothing to do with the mechanics of the house, and really, that's what I'm here for.
Certified Home Inspector Brian Daly arrives at the house to start his investigation.
All right, we're landed right here in the kitchen. My notes tell me that the homeowners complained about noises such as mice, also furniture being moved above us. One thing we have to keep in mind here is that we are in an older building. The type of construction didn't really require a whole lot of insulation or soundproofing. Now, one thing I do notice is that there's a clothesline just out the window. Every time the neighbor puts clothes on the line, it gives a high-pitched squeal, which can sound like mice. I'm gonna have a look underneath the kitchen sink and see if there is any evidence of mice. Now, this is the usual spot where you would find evidence of mice, and I don't see any evidence of anything under here. Normally, they hang out in these areas simply because that's where the food is. Yeah, no evidence of anything going on here. So I'm pretty satisfied that there's no mice, at least in this area. As we go through the house, we'll look for more signs and clues. So we're here in the living room, and the complaint that I've got here is with this clock radio. According to my notes, it's turning on randomly and making an awful sound. We'll have a quick look and turn it on. Oh, yeah, gosh, that's making an awful sound. I agree with the homeowner. The noise that came out of it was really weird. The speaker in this particular unit is not functioning properly. My recommendation is change the clock. Not going to cost you all that much money, and it'll probably give you peace of mind.
All speculation.
Home Inspector Brian Daly continues his inspection of the property.
Okay, so according to my notes, there were roofers on the roof, and they heard what they thought was the toilet flushing repeatedly. We're gonna have a look at it and just make sure it does work as it should. All the mechanisms seem to be in place. There's no indication that it's leaking at all. Inside the bowl itself, no problems with the bowl, and the actual toilet is nice and firm on the ground. The hearsay evidence actually came from roofers that were on top of the roof. Unless they were actually in the bathroom and witnessed it, I can't imagine that this toilet was flushing on its own. So we're gonna take that one off our list. From here, we're gonna move into the back of the house. We've gotta have a look at a set of stairs. Okay, the stairs in question are just down the hall, but you know what? I'm looking at this floor and there's tons of movement in it. Now this could actually be contributing to what we hear down below us in the kitchen area. This is a really weird hallway to walk down. There's not a whole lot of headroom and I'm feeling a little bit dizzy just being here. However, these are the stairs in question. The notes tell me that a friend was standing at the top of the stairs, felt dizzy, and felt like they were pushed and almost fell down the stairs. Now, I've got to say, this is one of the most dangerous set of stairs I think I've ever seen. There's no handrail on one side. The risers and the winders are just not designed properly. That, combined with the floor that we're standing on, could absolutely make somebody feel completely dizzy. And if you're standing too close, you could absolutely lose your balance on these set of stairs. The homeowner needs to address this before somebody really gets hurt. I'm gonna go down them, take my chances. Down here in the family room, there are a couple of issues. The first is with this bar area here, and the next is with the TV. According to my notes, the homeowner and a friend were sitting and drinking wine. They thought they'd finished their glasses and then left for shopping. Now they came back, and apparently one of the wine glasses was full again. I get a bit of a chuckle out of this because people don't realize the effects of alcohol. You can lose track of what's going on. Now, there is a chance that she filled up the wine glass herself or somebody else was playing a prank on her. We're gonna take that one off the list as something that really can be chalked up to wine, women, and shopping. From here, let's talk about this TV. Now, the issue here with the TV is that apparently comes on by itself. Now, the first thing I notice is that there's so many remotes for the TV, the DVD player, and the cable box, and there's a universal remote running the whole thing. You know, I've seen it before where universal remotes either aren't put together properly or wired properly, or they could be picking up the signal from other remotes and turning the TV on and off. So, not unusual for electronics to act up if they're not wired properly together. Overall, this house is in pretty good shape for what it is. There's nothing out of the ordinary happening in this house, and the homeowner can live in it with confidence.
Dr. Brian Daly begins his inspection. He is hoping to find plausible explanations to the bizarre events happening in the home.
In the living room, we're looking for this lamp. This is a touch light. The only way it comes on is through human touch. According to the notes, this light cycles on its own. Let's have a look at the way it's installed. This couch is right up against the wall. Pushing against the plug, there's a good chance that if that receptacle is loose, it could cause a short. The next thing on my list is storage bins that were stacked here and ended up flying across the room and almost hitting a child that was in this bed. You know, one thing I noticed on the outside of this house is that it is very close to a main highway. So if these bins were not stacked properly, over time with all of this vibration, they could have easily shifted and fell. The other issue, though, is that someone was lying in this bed and saw an apparition in front of them standing. Look at the windows in this room. It's a tiny little room, but it's got a huge amount of light. We've got driveways and street lights and roadways directly in front of the room. All of those things aid in creating shadows within the room. Absolutely not an apparition. It was just a shadow.
Brian Daly continues with his inspection.
We're in the master bedroom. There's a number of things on our list here, but the first has to do with this door. The complaint is that this door repeatedly opened and closed on its own. Doors just don't do that. There's nothing actually wrong with the way this door is hung, so I'm not sure what's going on with the door. I can't really explain that. From here, the next issue is growling in this closet. Let's have a look at what we've got in here. Oh my gosh. We checked carefully inside the closet and all around the room. I couldn't find a source, but it certainly could be animals above in the attic or somewhere down below. There is one other thing in this room, and this really concerns me. There's a photo of the homeowner's son, and there are times when the picture has spoken to them. A lot of the issues that are happening in this room has me concerned for indoor air quality. Carbon monoxide poisoning starts with people hallucinating and not feeling quite right. So we're gonna move from here down to the basement below. You know, yeah, I can smell it. We've got a furnace that is clearly not venting properly and is likely emitting carbon monoxide into this area. The master bedroom's directly above us, and I'm convinced that's what's contributing to what these people are experiencing in this house.
In my professional opinion, everything the homeowners have experienced in this house can be explained.